Everyone, this is Kelly Cahoot and I'm here for CatScrappiness.com. The project I'm sharing with you today includes lots of Lawn Fawn, as well as some masking and lots of coloring, so I've sped it up to try to get through the whole process of how I put this together. So I started out with that cute little Lawn Fawn Happy Mail mailbox die. Cut that out of red cardstock and I'm going to put that together with some score tape. That way it doesn't come apart while it's on my card. The little post there to the side I cut out of craft cardstock, and then I cut the little letters or little pieces of mail out of white cardstock. Now I'm going to start kind of placing things on my card where I think that they're going to go. Those are the Lawn Fawn simple stitched hillside dies that I'm going to use for the ground or the grass there. And my little stack of animals was a little too high, so I had to get rid of the cute little squirrel. And now I'm going to start preparing that masking paper. This is masking paper from Inkadinkado, and I'm going to set that into my Stampaholic stamping tool. And you want to be sure that you stamp onto the white side of that, because that is the sticky side. The other side is just the release paper. It doesn't really matter what type of ink you use on this, because that's not the part you're going to color. So I fussy cut those out, and again I'm trying to figure out exactly where I want them to go, and I'm just going to mark that little skunk's feet with a pencil. This little skunk is from Stinkin' Cute, also from Lawn Fawn, and I stamped him onto the paper, and then I'm going to use his mask and cover him up. And then I'm going to stamp the little hedgehog next, and he's from the Hedgehugs stamp set, and I'm going to stamp him right on the little skunk's head. And then again I'm going to use the mask and cover him up. And then next is the little bird, and that's from the newest Lawn Fawn release. That's from their Love Letters stamp set, and I'm going to use his mask and cover him up. Okay, so I cut with those hillside borders again. I cut the ground, or what's going to be the ground, and then the sky. So I'm going to place that just over the little skunk's feet, so it will look like later on that he's standing in the grass. And I'm going to use my Clarity Stencil brushes and some Tumbled Glass Distress ink and brush on the blue for the sky. So after I finish coloring the sky part, I'm going to remove that bottom mask, and I saved the top part of that masking paper because I'm going to cover up with that what I've just colored with that tumbled glass. That way I can brush on mowed lawn underneath there for the grass. So I kind of start off of my paper and then drag it on. And I went a little bit darker with that mowed lawn, and then as you can see there where you pull it off, you have a nice division there with the sky and the grass. And I'm just going to take a clean cloth and buff that over it. That way my fingerprints don't get all into that distress ink and pull it up. I'm going to take off my little critter masks there, and then they're ready to color. I stamped those in Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'm going to color those with my Copic markers. So I'm going to start with the little Stinkin' Cute skunk there, and my darkest color is a W9. And I'm just going in very, very lightly with that darkest color first, because I didn't want the skunk to be just a jet black color. So I'm going to use that very sparingly at first, and then mostly I'm going to use the W5 and W3. And for the little white parts of the skunk's body, I use a very light W3 and just go around the edges, and then use the W00 to go over the whole part of the white parts just to smooth it all out. And we'll get to that in just a second. Just finishing up blending in those darker W colors. And this is when I go in with the W3, just around the little whites of his eyes, his belly, and his tail. And then again, I'm going to smooth it all over and go over the whole piece with the W00. That way he still looks white, but he's not just stark white, especially against the black and grays of the other parts of his body. For the little hedgehog, I'm going to start with an E21, and I'm going to do that bottom part of his body first, and then his top where his little spines or his little hedgehog parts are. I don't know what you call those. I need to look it up. I'm going to go in with darker colors on those. So I gave him a little bit of a shadow on the underside of his belly. And then for his top, instead of coloring it all one shade or all over one little part, I'm kind of going with the direction of the little spines that are already in the stamp set, and I'm just flicking on those colors. And every once in a while I like to rub off my Copic markers onto my paper, as you can see there. Especially when I do masking like this, I'm afraid that I'm going to get a pool or a leak of ink, and then I would have to start all over again. So I'm going to pull out some yellows for my little yellow bird. I used Y11, Y13, Y17, and then an E23 is for his beak. So I made his top side the lightest yellow, and then went into his tail and just up his back a little bit with that Y17. Then I'm going to take that E23, like I said, and just go over his beak. And then for all the critters, I'm going to give them a little bit of blush with an R20. And then I like to give my critters maybe some freckles. I also like to go back over their eyes and their noses where they kind of get lost in the coloring. I gave the little hedgehog a few little black little spines or pricklies there. Went over his little eyes and eyelashes. And then with a white gel pen, I'm going to give some freckles and dots. I gave the little skunk there little whites of his eyes with the white gel pen. And a sharp fine point black marker for freckles and for going over their little eyes and noses there. So I cut these pieces out. I cut that little colored piece and a background piece with the Cat Scrappiness Stitched Fancy Scallop die set. I used the largest two of that set, and I cut some Lawn Fawn perfectly plaid paper, and I'm going to adhere that onto craft cardstock. And then the little colored piece is cut with the next to largest size of those die sets, and I'm going to pop that up with some foam tape. And then I'm going to be ready to adhere my little mailbox there. I'm going to use some liquid adhesive and stick down that post first. and then the mailbox on top. And I'm going to use that really tough score tape so I know I'm not going to lose that mailbox. Since it's a little bit three-dimensional, I want to make sure that you use something like score tape so you know it's not going to come off. I did the little flag with the same matching plaid paper. And these are the little letters. I'm taking some Cat Scrappiness Candy Kisses sequins, and I picked out some of those cute little red hearts, and that's going to be what seals the envelopes for my little letters or cards there. I'm just using some glossy accents to adhere that. And then there's a little stamp in this set that is a Happy Mail letter. And I use some Distress ink markers just to color the pieces of the letter different colors so it looks like it really has a stamp and it really has an address. That stamp does have a border around the edge, and so I used my distress markers because I didn't want the border. I wanted it to match all the little letters there. So I'm just going to get these set up in my little scene that I have going on here. Put a couple of letters that the little birdie is either pulling out of or sticking into the mailbox. And then I'm going to have a couple of little letters there on the ground, all stacked up. And here is the finished little scene here at the mailbox. All of these supplies can be found at catscrappiness.com. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye!